Welcome to The Critique. Today we're looking at a really high-octane commentary piece.
High octane is definitely one word for it. It's a lot to take in at once.
It is. It jumps from alleged Somali daycare fraud to claims of media manipulation, a map dispute, and then Don Lemon and the KKK Act.
Yeah, a huge spread. So let's just get right into the feedback. And I think the overall structure is the place we have to start.
The material presents a disjointed viewing experience by rapidly cycling through 5 distinct, unrelated controversies without a unifying thematic thread to guide the audience.
It really does feel like channel surfing, doesn't it? 1 minute it's, serious government fraud allegations in Ohio.
Right.
Then you're suddenly in an internet feud with Caleb Hammer, and then it pivots again to a legal theory about Don Lemon.
And the weakness there isn't just that the topics are different, it's that this approach, it just fatigues the listener. It kind of dilutes the impact of the really strong points because there's no logical flow.
I agree. It's a shame, because some of the individual segments have real research behind them.
They do.
But when you jam the Somali daycare story right next to a fight over whether a guy named Papa Gut can read a map, you risk making the serious stuff feel trivial. It feels like he's just emptying his drafts folder.
Exactly. So how do we fix that without losing that chaotic, high-energy style that he's clearly going for?
Good question.
The suggestion is to group the segments into 2 distinct thematic buckets. Let's call them, say, systemic corruption and media malpractice. It would create a much stronger narrative arc.
Okay, I like that. So you're basically creating chapters instead of just a random list. How would you lay that out with these specific stories?
Well, for a concrete example, you could combine the Channel 5 interview manipulation part with the Papa Gut and Caleb Hammer map dispute.
Right.
Frame that whole section explicitly as something like independent media versus the truth. It groups the personal beefs together, but under a bigger, more important idea.
That makes a lot of sense. It gives a viewer a reason to care about the Papa Gut thing beyond just, the drama. It becomes a case study.
Mm-hmm.
So then I assume you'd group the Somali daycare fraud and the ICE raids together.
Exact. That becomes your government efficiency and enforcement chap. By putting the visuals of the boarded-up daycares right next to the DHS reports, you build a compounding argument. It hits harder when they're back-to-back.
And Don Lemon? Where does he fit? That one kind of feels like it straddles both.
You save him for the end, the finale, because it combines both themes, right? He's a media guy, so that's bucket 1, but he's facing legal enforcement, which is bucket 2. It's a natural climax, not just another story thrown in the pile.
That structure would absolutely help. It turns a scattershot video into something more like a coherent essay. But that brings us to the actual content and the tone.
Right. That leads us to our second critique. The relentless use of hyperbolic insults and slur-adjacent language undermines the legitimate factual evidence presented during the debunking segment.
Yeah, this is the elephant in the room. He is clearly going for an edgy, anti-PC style. You hear things like retard, fat idiot, and, other slurs used just as insults. It's aggressive.
It's very aggressive, and the weakness is that he has this really strong objective evidence, like the side-by-side of the Channel 5 interview, or the map proof.
Mm-hmm.
But by sandwiching that proof between all these insults, it just distracts from the win.
I see what you mean. In the Caleb Hammer segment, he proves, conclusively, that the address is the same. It's an objective win.
It is.
But he immediately starts yelling these really vile things. It just allows any skeptic, anyone on the fence, to dismiss the actual evidence and just write him off as a troll.
Exact. It's an off-ramp. If the goal is to convince anyone outside of his core audience, the language gives them a perfect excuse to stop listening, even if the evidence is totally solid.
So what's the fix? Does he need to clean up the language entirely? I mean, that feels like it goes against the whole channel's brand.
No, and we have to respect the authors, and he wants to be combative. So the suggestion is to separate the evidence phase from the reaction phase.
Okay.
It's about timing. Let the facts land with their full weight before you pivot to the persona-driven humor.
So can you give an example of what that would look like in the edit? How do you separate them when the pace is so fast?
Okay, let's take the Papa Gut map dispute. He should clearly display the map overlay showing 607 and 607 South are the same place.
Right, the visual proof.
Just hold on that image. Maybe let it be silent for a second. Establish the factual win. Let the audience absorb it. Then you can launch into the mockery. Right now, the insults just trample the facts.
That creates a rhythm, like setup, proof, punchline, instead of what it is now, which is punchline, proof, punchline.
Correct. And another example, the Channel 5 segment. Play the edited clip from them. Then play the raw audio where he's talking about tax rate, but state it clearly. He cut 90 minutes of context.
Ah, so you establish the journalistic malpractice first.
You cement it, and then you can follow up with the jokes about benevolent and the left-wing propaganda machine.
That distinction is so important. It changes it from, I'm just an angry guy yelling, to, I have proven you're a liar, and now I'm going to mock you for it. It feels earned.
The evidence is strong enough to stand on its own. The insult should be the garnish, not the main course.
Speaking of that evidence, particularly with the Channel 5 interview, I have to admit I was struggling to keep up.
Yeah?
He knows that footage inside and out, but as a new viewer, I kind of felt lost.
And that's our third focus area. The critique of the Channel 5 interview relies heavily on the audience's prior knowledge of the specific raw footage, rather than explicitly demonstrating the manipulation within the video itself.
I felt that so much. He asserts that Andrew Callahan edited the interview to make him look bad, but the video moves so quickly. If you haven't sat through that 2.5-hour raw file,
Which most people haven't.
right, you're gonna miss exactly what was cut. He says he conveniently left this out, but the transition is so chaotic you can't really track it.
It's a classic curse of knowledge problem. He knows what's missing, so he assumes we all see it too. The weakness is that the visual storytelling is relying on the viewer to fill in some pretty big gaps.
It assumes we're all insiders, yeah. It feels like walking into the middle of a conversation.
So the suggestion is to use distinct visual cues or clearer audio signposting to differentiate between the lie, which is Andrew's edit, and the truth, the raw recording.
Okay, that sounds like a simple editing fix. What would that look like in practice?
So when he's talking about that 89% Somali fraud statistic, he plays the clip where he looks silent. He should just stamp the screen with Channel 5 edit in huge red letters.
Oh, I like that, like a warning label.
Yeah. Then when he plays his rebuttal, switch to an actual recording stamp in green. It visually codes the deception for the audience. You almost don't need the audio to get the point.
That's really smart.
And then narrate the gap. Don't just play the clip. Add a voiceover. Andrew shows me silent here. In reality, I spent the next 4 minutes citing Department of Homeland Security stats, which you can see on screen now.
That makes the manipulation undeniable, rather than just a claim he's making. It turns he said, she said into, here's the receipt.
Moving on to that final segment, which was maybe the most provocative one, the Don Lemon situation.
Yes, the biggest twist in the history of cinema, as he called it. The idea that a black journalist could be charged under the KKK Act of 1871. It's a wild idea.
Regarding Don Lemon and the KKK Act offers high ironic value but risks spreading misinformation by conflating speculative legal theory with confirmed charges.
That's a critical distinction, because throughout the segment he says things like, they're arresting a black man for the KKK Act, and he is going to jail. It's stated as fact.
It is, but if you actually listen to the source clip he uses, the interview with the Attorney General, he's only discussing the KKK Act as a potential tool. He says they're weighing it.
Right. He uses words like predicate. He hasn't actually filed anything yet. It's a legal threat, not a conviction.
Stating it as a done deal, it sets the audience up for disappointment. It damages his own credibility as a predictor. If Don Lemon just gets charged with, simple trespassing next week, the host looks like he was just hyping it up for clicks.
He looks uninformed. Yeah. So how do you keep that energy, that irony of the situation, without misstating the facts of the case?
The suggestion is to frame the segment around the irony of the potential application rather than the certainty of the arrest.
That feels like a subtle shift. How do you phrase that to keep the energy high?
Well, instead of saying he is getting charged with the KKK Act, you could say something like, the Attorney General is explicitly weighing the KKK Act, a law designed to protect black citizens, against the black journalist. Here's why that legal theory even applies.
That's actually more interesting, isn't it? It invites the audience into the legal strategy. It treats them like they're smart.
Exactly. You can highlight the parallel that was mentioned in the source clip about the Biden DOJ using the FACE Act against protesters. You explain that legal precedent and how it's creating this boomerang effect that's now swinging back at someone like Don Lemon.
That's a great angle. It moves the focus from Don Lemon is definitely going to jail, which may not happen, to the left's legal tactics are backfiring, which is a much stronger, more sustainable argument.
It anchors the commentary and political strategy, not just fortune-telling. It's safer, it's smarter, and it avoids the fake news trap.
I wonder if that nuance kills the vibe, though. His brand is so much about rapid-fire, definitive statements.
I don't think it has to. You can still be high energy about the irony. You just have to be precise about where we are in the process. Get ready because the AG just dropped the KKK Act on the table is just as exciting as he's charged, but it also happens to be true.
That's fair, and it future-proofs the video from the "you were wrong" comment.
Precisely. It protects his authority, and if you're going to call everyone else fake news, your own reporting has to be bulletproof.
Yeah, looking back, despite all these issues, the core investigative work is actually really solid. Finding the daycare locations, digging up the DHS stuff, that's the good stuff.
It is. The raw materials are all there. Our feedback is really just about clearing away the clutter so the audience can actually see the path.
So let's wrap this up. We're looking at restructuring the flow, timing the insults, visualizing the edits, and being more precise with the legal language.
That brings us to the conclusion of this critique. The submission effectively harnesses high-energy commentary to expose hypocrisy, but it really needs some refinement to maximize its impact.
Okay, let's give the listener the quick, actionable steps.
First, reorder the segments. Group Media Lies, Channel 5, Papa Gut together. Group Government Corruption, the fraud, the ICE raids together. Give it a logical flow.
Second, let the hard evidence breathe. Show the map, play the audio, let it hang for a beat before the insults. Let the facts win the argument first.
Third, visually distinguish between the edited and raw footage. Stamp it right there on the screen. Don't assume the audience knows the backstory.
And finally, be precise about the Don Lemon story. Focus on the irony of the legal theory, not a conviction that hasn't happened. Use that boomerang effect frame.
This has been The Critique. We encourage the listener to apply these adjustments and submit their work again. We would love to see how this tightens up.
Absolutely. There's a lot of potential here. It just needs a sharper edit.
Until next time, keep refining your work.